YouTube, Star Spangled Clothing here. I'm going to talk a little bit today about tape measures. When I'm doing a project, I tend to use a small tape measure, although it tends to make my manhood feel smaller. Used to. I mean, I don't know, I'm kind of over that now. But when I'm doing small projects on the table saw or whatever, I'll tend to use a small tape measure. They make for precise measurement, but I'm going to talk about how to make measurements. It's very important, and most people don't talk about it. Alright, so we'll assume that my camera is going to work with me today and focus in on things. This is a Stanley tape measure, and it has decimals on one side, and it has the typical fraction measurements on the other side. This is actually a machinist tape measure. That's why it has decimals on it. I don't like it because the decimals get in my way, but it is better than nothing. Man, this camera just will not do close-up videos. I'm sorry about this, but wow. So we had to move over to the whiteboard. I was trying to show how to use the tape measure. Sounds like a simple enough task over there on the table saw, and it turns out that my camera just won't focus that well on small things, that it's really hard to explain, especially when you have a tape measure that reads into 30 seconds. So you're over here. So I drew out a very simple tape measure here. Say you were wanting to read how big this piece was out to this mark over here. When you put the end of the tape measure over a piece of wood, the actual measurement is going to be on the inside of one of those marks. I mean, you remember how I said the pencil line was extremely large? Well, so is a tape measure line. And so if you want to prove it, go to Lowe's and look at a milled piece of dimensional lumber, which is what I always use as an example because that's what I'm working with. And that stuff will, say you take a 1 by something, it will measure 3/4 of an inch right to the inside of that line. And so when you're taking a measurement of a piece of wood, the 1 inch mark is actually on the inside of that line. And so the other day when I was doing the door and I said measure twice, cut once, I mean, I am looking to see that I get that measurement right there. Not the one over here, not the one, like you can't even measure the middle. You know, that's impossible to do. So that is how to properly take a measurement with a tape measure. I really need to declutter my life. But that's how you take a proper measurement with a tape measure. That's how I measure all of my dados, all of everything. And so on most projects it doesn't matter. For the longest time I didn't even care, but when I started building furniture and we're talking about getting something square and it has to be exact, if you check out some of my other videos, I have a video of the dresser that I built for my daughter, my wife, sitting on it. I should probably take that down. It was to prove that it would actually hold up a pregnant woman. Bad idea. My idea, bad idea. Anyway, when you talk about taking two pieces of wood and making them fit together tight and square, and you see it has that support in the middle there, if you want that to be square, I mean, you got to get right down to the nitty-gritty. And that is how to take an accurate measurement with a tape measure, is to go to the inside of the mark. And likewise, when you take two separate measurements, well, I don't know, that's kind of harder to explain. But say when you're measuring a dado, let me draw this out real fast. Like when I was measuring my dados on the door, you have this trough right here that you've measured. Like that. When you put your tape measure on there, say it's a 1/4 inch, a common thing to do with a tape measure, ouch, this is so hard to draw. A common thing to do with a tape measure is to say, start at the 1 inch mark and label or go over here to the 1/4 inch mark. And if you look at that dado, it'll actually go from the middle, like the end of this side, to the inside of that 1/4 inch right there. That's a common thing to do when you're making small measurements, because the end of the tape measure really isn't the most accurate part. But if that thing is truly a 1/4 inch, it'll measure right in between those two marks, just like that. Not in the middle, not on the edge. It'll measure right in between, and that is exactly a 1/4 inch. And that, my friends, is how to use the tape measure. It's something they don't tell you. Maybe because they don't want to split hairs, but if you want to take an accurate measurement, if you need to, it's not always that important, but if you need to, that's how you do it. And that's how the tape measure is laid out and how the marks work.